before Christmas. We all know what that means. There's shopping to finish, there's Santa to be consulted, there's goodies to be baked, presents to be wrapped. One of the great things about Christmas is that almost everyone you know is thinking about Jesus. And they're thinking about the night he came to earth. But what about the week before the very first Christmas? God had barely spoken to his people in more than 400 years. But still, the Jews barely spoke to his people. But the Jews remembered the Old Testament prophecies, and they knew that someday God would keep his promise. Someday he would send a Messiah.
Isaiah 62:11. The Lord has announced a message from one end of the earth to the other. He has said, tell the people of Zion, look, your Savior is coming. He is bringing his people back as his reward. He has won the battle over their enemies.
They just didn't know the Messiah would be here in a week. God's people were preparing not for a holiday like we are today, but for the census ordered by Caesar Augustus. Because they were under Roman rule, everyone had to travel to the city of their ancestors to be counted, whether they wanted to or not, whether it was convenient or not.
Micah 5:2. Bethlehem, you might not be an important town to the nation of Judah, but out of you will come a ruler over Israel. His family line goes back to the early years of your nation, all the way back to the days of long ago.
And so it was that a week before the first Christmas, in Bethlehem, the city of David, descendants of David were beginning to gather.
How many relatives are staying at your house?
All my husband's brothers are here with their wives, and their children, and their camels, and their sheep.
My house is full too. So is my stable.
Does anybody know how long they have to stay here?
About this time in Galilee, a young betrothed couple, Mary and Joseph, were packing up to leave the comfort of their village for the week-long walk to Bethlehem. Mary knew her baby would be arriving soon, and she could not have been more excited. She could not have been excited about setting off on a long journey. Would they be safe? Did they have enough food and money for the trip? Would they even make it before the baby was born? Mary and Joseph knew the baby was God's son, but like any first-time parents, they didn't know exactly what to expect and were anxiously waiting for their son to be born. Meanwhile, back in Bethlehem, people were working, cooking, buying, selling, getting water, and taking care of their animals. But the shepherds were out in the fields doing what they did all day, every day, and all night, every night. Looking after sheep. It was an important job, but it was difficult and lonely, and nobody rarely paid them much attention. The shepherds took very good care of the sheep. They protected them from wild animals. Not only did they protect them from wild animals, they made sure they had food, and they searched for them when they wandered away. And they searched for them when they wandered away.
There you are!
He found her! Yay! Those shepherds had no idea that in a few nights they would be in the company of angels who would tell them not to be afraid and bring them tidings of great joy. Meanwhile, 5 miles Bethlehem in the holy city of Jerusalem at the temple, an old man named Simeon watched every day as family after family brought their babies into the temple to be dedicated. God had promised Simeon he wouldn't die until he saw the Messiah with his own eyes. But Simeon was getting older every day, and he was beginning to wonder if he would really live long enough. And Anna, a widow who also was a prophetess, kept on worshiping day and night at the temple. She had no idea that the same God she was worshiping would be carried right through the door very, very soon.
Isaiah 7:14 says, "Therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and you shall call his name Emmanuel."
Far, far away in the east, the wise men were watching the sky, studying the stars, and searching for signs. They were just a few days away from seeing the most amazing star any of them had ever seen. One that would send them on a long journey. It would lead them to the throne of Herod and eventually to a house in Bethlehem where they would give a small boy gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Gifts suitable for royalty, and be warned by God to find another way home. Today, just stay right there. You were hindered providentially. You know, today, more than 200 years, 2,000 years later, today, more than 2,000 years later, when we read all these stories, we know how it's going to turn out. But at that time, the week before the first Christmas, everything felt pretty normal, pretty ordinary. But God was getting ready to take something ordinary and make it extraordinary. The world was about to change. God was coming to earth as a baby.
Isaiah 9:6. For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, and Prince of Peace.
And that is our play. You can give them a round of applause. I just want to be a sheep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. I just want to be a sheep. I don't want to be a hypocrite. I don't want to be a hypocrite, cause it's not hypocrite. I just want to be a sheep, I just want to be a sheep, I just want to be a sheep, I pray for the Lord my soul to keep. I just want to be a sheep,